gonna die. Going too fast. I'm taking 3.
I'm going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we're going to take a look at an epic comeback in the Hipper. Yes, before we get too far into that, though, I do want to acknowledge everyone's input on the upcoming contest for next week. Thank you very much. Taking it all into consideration, except the tier 10 thing, right? We can't do tier 10, not everyone has one. But anyway, other thing too I want to acknowledge is all of the replays that I have been getting as of late. Thank you very, very much for sending in all those replays. Going through them, you guys have had some very, very epic games. It's really quite astonishing. And then there's some real... some real ones that just confuse you and make no sense at all because it... Anyway. We are in the Hipper. It's been a while since I have taken out the Hipper, I gotta say. When I'm in tier 8 cruisers, what I've been doing right now is I've been grinding the Chapiev. And the reason for it is get commander experience for that captain, because that captain is going to end up in the Donskoy once I get my Moskva, which should happen within today. I got a super crate. Oh, it was my third super crate that I got last night for 5 million credits, so I was quite happy with that. I mean, I already had the 19 million saved up for the Moskva, so that wasn't an issue. It's just now with that 5 million buffer, right, I can buy the Moskva, I can train all the captains, I don't need to worry about that, and I might even be able to get some modules for the Moskva as well, so that's fantastic. So quite pleased with that. But anyway, that captain is going to move up, and then I'm going to get the Chapiev captain into the Donskoy, and I want that Chapiev captain to have the concealment expert, because I want that in the Donskoy so that I can continue to fire without being seen in the Donskoy. Very important. So, working on it. Anyway, in the old Hipper here. So, I mean, yeah, armor piercing is loaded up. It's a Hipper. Armor piercing usually does considerable amounts of damage. And this is normal for me, what I would do on this map. I guess, you know, if I'm on this side, as I do, come towards this island, close in the range, and then see what I can do about anyone who does decide to get into A immediately, right? Now, in this case, we have a smart destroyer player. I mean, we do see smart destroyer players quite often. So this player comes in and you know, smokes on the outside, or you know, just on the outskirts of the point, still being able to cap the point, mind you, but far enough away that, you know, I don't have radar, so I'm not going to be able to detect the player unless I do have radar. And you know, obviously we don't have radar here on the Hipper, so can't do too much about it. Then there we do see the destroyer pop up. It's a Kiev, I believe. Yeah, I think it's a Kiev. So we're just going to fire at it and then take a look at some of our other targets here. We do have a Prince, is it an Eugen or a Hipper? One of those cruisers over there that we may have to deal with. No, that's a Bismarck. That's 2 Bismarcks we have to deal with. So things are getting a little real here, right? We have to try and run away, basically. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot I can do against Bismarcks. I slam right into my ally Thotgor there without really thinking about it. It was more like, God damn it, buddy, get out of my way. But then, you know, you got to take a step back and look and like, no, it was my fault. I mean, he was probably going, well, I didn't even see the situation, but I'll still blame myself. Give Buddy the benefit of the doubt. Even though Buddy's in an Thotgor, I'll give him a benefit of doubt. So we're going to shoot some shots here off at the Bismarcks. We do see that I got fairly lucky with some of these incoming shots, right? Falling short, and the ones that are hitting seem to be over penetrating and not doing too much damage. So am getting lucky in that regard, but I do now have to deal with secondary batteries, right? And that's kind of a terrible thing. I mean, the secondary batteries on the German battleships obviously cannot be overstated. It's just epic. Starting at tier 8, right? I mean, and we've seen secondary batteries like this before. Obviously, we see them on the Yamato, but before, right, it was only at that tier 10 level that you would see this. Now we have it down here at tier 8. I mean, the guys now, the secondary battery on the guys now is not, you know, to be pushed over, right, and just forgotten about. There's some strong secondary armament on that ship as well. I mean, all the German battleships really do excel. Starting at the Koning, I'd say. I did play the, what's tier 4, Kaiser, but I wasn't too impressed with the Kaiser, so I just quickly moved along. Anyway, firing the HE now, right? Because, I mean, it's battleships. I can do some pretty good, decent damage with the armor piercing at these ranges against those broadside Bismarcks. The problem is that they're not going to stay broadside, right? And I wanted to do more consistent damage than I had been doing with the armor piercing originally, so we switched over to the high explosive. Plus, we had a destroyer, but yeah, we're switching back over to the armor piercing because we do have some cruiser action coming up. And of course, this is really where the Admiral Hipper does excel. She is excellent at dealing with cruisers. Of course, that's a Scharnhorst. Of course, I would get it wrong. Well, a Scharnhorst plays like a cruiser. But still, that being said, I can do excellent damage against this Scharnhorst with my armor piercing, that player being broadside as well. The biggest danger here that I would have to worry about from a Scharnhorst like this is the high explosive rounds, right? And the rate of fire that the Scharnhorst can put those down range. I can angle against the armor piercing. That's not too big of an issue, and you can see I'm not doing a poor job of it right now. I'm turning and making that angle a little more extreme, and I do pay for my laziness there and hit points. But, you know, it's easy enough to do that angling, and you can see my shots going in, you know, decent damage. You could always make the argument for the high explosive, I suppose, but I just enjoy doing doing the armor piercing damage, and you never know, I could get a rogue citadel as well. So it's kind of like, you know, throwing the dice with try your luck with the try your luck crates. And I know that sounds terrible too, right? Because it should really be based on aiming and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all based on RNG. So I'm taking my chances. We do have a New Orleans though popping up, and finally I get the ship class right, yes, and I actually have a cruiser to shoot at. So this was fantastic. I was thinking, yes, right on. I'm gonna get some easy citadels because it's New Orleans. Unfortunately, haven't been in the Hipper for very long time, so I'm not so familiar or proficient with the guns as I once was. So I'm gonna have to work on that. But anyway, we still do a bit of damage to the Hipper. We still have the Scharnhorst that we can fire into as well, and you can see that we are losing, hands down losing. If we take a look at the mini-map, the enemy has all three caps. My team, including myself, we've all running away. We're making use of these islands here, way back here, right? This is basically where we are. We're split in kind of two groups. We can see that we do still have some allies putting pressure on A. Everyone at C is, you know, moving away, and the rest of us who are back here or moving back here, right? We're just kind of back here. So I'm hoping to stay alive. I was hoping that, you know, whatever defeat is about to come our way, that it would be quick and painless, and basically just preparing myself for that. We see the Bismarcks off in the distance once again. They're broadside, so I'm going to fire my armor piercing. We see that one of my allies did just kill that enemy Scharnhorst, so that is pretty good. Gives us a chance of not going into the negative. So decent, I suppose. Now, there was a little skip in the video there. That was just simply I had alt-tabbed out of the game. I forgot what I was doing, but I did something real quick, probably changed the song, and decided to edit that little bit out, because you don't need to see the screen pausing any more than you have to, right? Anyway, circling around the island, you can see one of my allies has just died. We just managed to take down another one of the enemy ships, so this is good. We're only down one ship right now. The real problem is the caps, right? We do have some allies over in A, some real brave allies. Now, credit where credit is due. It's really the people over there at A who stuck it out, not like myself. I ran away. Those people really initiated, at least for me, the shame of hiding in the back and making me push forward regardless, right? It's at this point where it's just like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm in the back, I'm hiding, I'm next to a Yamato who's also hiding, so it's like double bad. At least I'm not in my tier 10. And we're losing, right? So we're probably gonna lose, so let's just go for it. Let's just do it. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna push forward. It doesn't mean I'm gonna go all willy-nilly. I'm gonna push forward here with my Yamato. I mean, hell, I'm next to the Yamato. Why not use the Yamato? We do have a lot of enemy battleships off in the distance, and I'm really counting on my Yamato to do something about those people. What I'm going to try and do in my, capacity here as the cruiser is I'm going to try and provide supporting fire to the Yamato. take out targets of opportunity that, you know, may disrupt my allied battleship there. And I'm thinking now, is it even a Yamato? It's probably not even a Yamato. It's probably not even a Yamato. I think it's an Amagi now that we're talking about it. But anyway, that's my ally battleship. Trying to support this player, right? But at the same time, you can see that I do have some friendly battleships putting some pressure on B. Now, we already have the A cap, and it would make a whole lot more sense to you know, get in there with my allies at B, take B using the support from the allies at A, and then push onwards into C, because it looks as though the enemy has basically concentrated their forces now in C. If we can just keep them balled up in C and destroy them all, we might have a chance at victory here. So one of my allies, the battleship, has just moved in and is now capping the B point. So this is fantastic. I got to deal with this reversing Colorado here, and yes, I am firing armor piercing. It's doing decent damage, but you can see it. Well, it didn't do decent damage. It did 590 damage and a bunch of ricochets. So it's kind of unfortunate. Watching it now, I wish I would have switched over to high explosives sooner, but whatever. We do still have some cruisers about that I wanted to deal with, and I wanted to have armor piercing loaded up and ready to go just in case. Plus, we do still have Bismarcks to deal with as well, and these Bismarcks are sailing in a, you know, pretty broadside, especially this one over here. So if we just target this Bismarck here, put some shots into him, should do some decent damage, and hopefully we're going to be able to continue along the path of destruction here, right? We need to kill enemy ships as quick as we possibly can. Taking a look at some torpedo options that I may have on the Hipper, you can see, right, the angle was widespread. I hadn't played her since God knows when. We see an unfortunate Amagi over there that is grounded, so I'm, you know, instantly going to put shells into that player, broadside as well, nonetheless. So that's pretty great. Shots go in, didn't do as much damage as I was hoping, because it would be easy to get some citadels in that situation. But whatever. We have the enemy New Orleans that we're still going to try and deal with here. We can see some of my allies are also engaging the enemy New Orleans, but more importantly, the enemies that are at sea are still in sea. They're not making any significant move into B, because we are real weak in B right now. It's basically myself and my allied battleship, right? And I am quickly running out of hit points here, right? I've taken some hits throughout the battle here as we've been ranting on about stuff, and the hit points and the pool has just slowly been drained here. So the options are becoming limited. I have the Kiev over here once again, right? Kiev is making an appearance once again, and the player is firing at me and, you know, has set me on fire. My repair's on cooldown, so this is basically worst nightmare situation. So I'm really trying to maneuver around and mitigate any incoming shots to prevent any fires that may get set. Meantime, I'm still firing at the enemy New Orleans, trying to get this player sunk as well. Finally, I turn and, you know, I'm going to get one more salvo off at the enemy New Orleans, I think. Then I look and I see that the Kiev is right over there, right? So if I can get the shot off here at the enemy New Orleans, I can turn and maybe get some shots off at that enemy Kiev as well. We need to keep in mind that there's still the Amagi somewhere in that mix over there at sea, and there are still some Bismarcks floating around here as well. So I really don't want to take any chances and you know, sail in any one direction for too long. Enemy destroyer has popped the smoke, so we're not going to be able to do anything about that player anymore. So we are going to try and pick off some of these enemy battleships, because you can see some of the enemy players have realized what is going on, and they're trying to make a concentrated effort to get out of sea. This is why you don't want to ball up in any one specific point. It really doesn't work out too well unless it's played out at the beginning, right? And you all sort of rush one cap and then focus onto a second cap immediately. Like, that could work. But in this situation where the enemy just swooped from one side of the map to the other, and then we essentially, well, the heroes at A essentially, you know, took that point and inspired us all to move forward. We then came in behind them and managed to catch them at C. And C really is, on this map, on Hotspot, is the worst point, you know, to get balled up into, because there's a lot of these little islands, and you might be sitting there thinking, well, you know, we've got torpedo coverage, and they they would have, you know, some good coverage against our fire. This is true. They do, and it means we wouldn't be able to kill them as quickly. But what it also means is they have no maneuver room at all. So when they do make a push out, it's either going to be a concentrated push that you're going to have to really fight off, or it's going to be one at a time, and then you can just pick them off, right? So you really do have to look at it, you know, what point is taking place here. And we've got the C point that we're working with here. Get some shots into the Kiev, finally do some significant damage, but wasn't able to finish off the player, which is unfortunate. Take some more damage there from the enemy Bismarck. We can see the Bismarck and the Amagi still in the distance. So the Amagi is still lurking around, right? So we do need to keep in mind that this player is here. We are still behind in points. We've been behind in points this entire game. The only thing that has kept us going is the fact that we've managed to kill enemy ships and the heroes at A. These people cannot be spoken of more highly. We're still trying to push forward though, right? We need to still maintain the pressure on the enemy to kill the enemy ships. We're finally having an advantage in ships overall because the enemy only has 4 ships remaining. We can see one of those Bismarcks is about to sink. There we go. Bismarck, or well, one of the battleships, enemy battleships, is gone anyway, so we don't need to worry about this player anymore. We have the enemy Amagi, we have the enemy Kiev, and we still have another enemy Bismarck around. So do need to keep these players in mind. Wasn't sure what the Amagi was doing, but you know, we've got a Bismarck barreling down on us and I have no hit points at all. So the immediate thing that I need to try and do is get some quick damage out and turn, right, and angle against this player. I didn't want to turn into sea, so it only left the turn to port, exposing broadside. Now, lucky for me, enemy Bismarck isn't focused on me, was more focused on one of my allies, so you can see that the guns weren't turned towards me. So I'm trying to pump out as much damage as I possibly can here, as quick as I possibly can, to get the player gone. And there we go. Enemy Bismarck is dealt with. So you can see what I mean about the armor piercing. Now the Bismarck got that last shot off there, and that was almost a nail in the coffin for me, but somehow held on to it. I mean, and you could see through in the chat as well, some of my teammates just freaking out over what is taking place. Pretty hilarious. Now, we do still have the enemy destroyer to deal with. I'm not willing to go out there and deal with that enemy destroyer, obviously. It's a shame that my battleships would have to go do it, and then one of the battleships manages to, or well, not the battleship, but one of my allies manages to kill him. So that is fantastic. Perfect. Don't need to worry about enemy destroyer anymore. Now it is a matter of the enemy Amagi. Where is the enemy Amagi, we all thought? Well, at least that's what I was thinking. I don't know what these people were thinking. Some of them, I think, actually knew where the enemy Amagi was, because they told me in chat. But I wasn't really paying attention to the chat at this point in time. Like, my big drive and focus was to get into C and to cap C. That is what I'm trying to do. I know that, you know, it's looking good for our victory here, but the points aren't assured. We don't have much time left. Really need to, at least I thought, to get into this cap. Because I figured the Amagi had pushed beyond C and was actually somewhere like on the northeast side of the map here, behind the island where I'm not going to see him anyway. So I figured it was pretty good to go into C. Now at the last minute I turn out of it because I do look in chat and I see what's being typed in chat. Hipper's going to lose it for us. What are you talking about? So I turn out, and then there we go. We have the enemy Amagi pop up. So people did save me. Random people saved me, which is fantastic. Wasn't expecting it. We can see the Amagi over there still grounded. Yes. Not sure what the player is doing at all, but I'm going to get some shots off into the broadside Amagi, right? Why not? Or at least so I thought. Amagi pops out of sight, and I'm moving out of shots here, so I'm not going to be able to get any shots off because of the mountains here, right? But I'm still trying to be careful, because I figured that the Amagi player would see the Hipper, myself, being at such low health that the player would just instantly try and kill me. Turns out, or I think, I'm not sure. I'm not making any accusations, or I guess I am. We'll just say that the player was AFK, because I don't know what's going on with this player. We'll say AFK. So we don't really have to worry about it. You can see some of my allies set the Amagi on fire. We're doing some damage here. We're going to win the game. We came a long way. Came a long way from cowering over there in the islands in the north, but somehow we've pulled it off. Now, I know I've given a lot of credit here to the people at A, but I'm going to do it again. they, for me anyway, and for my cowering back there with my allied battleship who wasn't a Yamato, it really motivated me to push forward. Regardless of what was going to happen, I knew, like, whatever, I'm just going to push forward. I've got my battleship here, we've got those people at A taking the point, I'm not going to, be the only one cowering back here. I'm going to push forward. So that's what did it for me, and that's really, I think, what attributed to the comeback that we saw here. A lot of the team sort of saw that. Now, my overall, results weren't bad. I think it was like 87,000 damage, which isn't too bad. I didn't actually take a look at the final results. All I was concerned about was money, because at this point I didn't have the super crate yet. So I was just trying to get money. So 166,000 credits earned, but my overall contribution wasn't bad. It was 87,000. I would imagine that ended up middle of the road. I'm not sure who was at A, but if any of those people survived, they were probably first and second. So still, resulted in a good game. Anyway, folks, that is the end of today's video. Thanks again for all the comments with regards to the contest that we discussed. If you haven't, seen the video, it was Smoking Guns was the name of the video. So at the beginning, we discuss it. For this video, and as always, leave any comments you have for me. Love reading those, responding back to them. Hit the like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And of course, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.